Let's go on the record. Do you ever feel like somebody or something is watching you? And no, I don't mean like hiding in the bushes watching you. I'm talking about something that is a little bit more subtle, but way more constant. You know that smart device that you're maybe wearing on your wrist or even the ring on your finger? Well, it is watching, and every heartbeat, every step, every time you toss and turn at night. But we have invited this. We have invited these things to watch us, and we even paid money for this privilege. But it turns out that it may be doing a whole lot more than just that. Quietly bathing you in electromagnetic radiation 24/7. Here's the kicker: potentially making you more anxious about your health than even you were before you strapped that device on. These devices are recording every single move. The CDC has confirmed that these devices use radio frequency radiation, and Apple's own Find My network can basically detect your device even when it has zero Wi-Fi or zero Bluetooth connection. It's literally nothing turned on and it can still figure out where you are. The IEEE researchers have actually proven this. These little wearable devices are constantly dropping digital breadcrumbs, and these can be picked up pretty much anywhere that we go. Your morning jog, your daily commute, even when you're just sitting in church trying to be present or connect with God. None of it is as private as you may think. And honestly, this should terrify us. We wake up every single morning and we just check our heart rate on our watch, and sometimes that little number sends us into this complete 3-hour Google spiral of doom. And that is what your watch is doing when you're not even consciously using it. You think it's just sitting there quietly on your wrist, passively counting your steps, right? Wrong. It's literally having full conversations with the world around you every single second, which brings us to what I like to call the silent signal. Here's what's actually happening. So buckle up, because this is where things get genuinely insane. Our fitness trackers are constant, and I mean constantly sending out these little things called Bluetooth low energy beacons. Plus, a lot of them are actually also blasting ultra-wideband pings on them, which is a steady, never-ending rhythm. And get this, Apple's own support page straight up admit that their Find My network, like I said, it still detects offline devices through other nearby Apple devices. They're not even trying to hide it from us anymore. And EMF experts have confirmed that fitness trackers do emit electromagnetic fields continuously. And the IEEE researchers have actually proven that all these Bluetooth low energy devices can be fingerprinted and tracked passively. There is no pairing required, there is no permission asked, and no little pop-up that is like, hey Robbi, is this okay with you? And here's the part we need to connect the dots on. The constant Bluetooth beacons we just talked about. You know those ultra-wideband pings I just mentioned? They're not necessarily just these innocent little data signals that are floating around the digital space somewhere. These are a form of what's called electromagnetic radiation, EMFs. You may have heard of it, but we're wearing these transmitters directly on our skin, 24/7, right over some of our major arteries. Let's be brutally honest about what is actually happening here. These tech companies, they keep swearing up and down that everything is well below safety limits. But here's what is actually wild. The CDC has acknowledged that wearable technology does use radio frequency radiation, and that researchers at institutions like the Bio Initiative Report and the Environmental Health Trust have linked chronic low-level EMF exposure to sleep disruption, headaches, and even changes in heart rhythm. Here's what should blow your mind. You know the FDA's safety standards for these devices? A lot of them are based on studies from the 1990s. We're talking about research that is older than most of the people who are wearing these things. The World Health Organization has actually classified radio frequency electromagnetic fields as possibly carcinogenic to humans. Let's just pause and just let that sink in for a second. Somehow, we've all just collectively decided that strapping on a mini transmitter to our bodies is totally fine. And the European Environmental Agency has been way more cautious about this stuff than we have here in America. They've actually recommended reducing EMF exposure, especially for children. But here in America, we just keep cranking out more wearables, more signals, more constant radiation, and we call this health optimization. radiation. Yes, this data is valuable, but is there a trade-off? Yes, and it could be potentially dangerous. The pros of this, obviously continuous biometrics, they give you feedback loops, sleep, HRV, stress readiness. They can obviously catch early red flags like arrhythmia or even cycle disruptions. They can reinforce healthy habits, so good sleep hygiene and even movement. But those benefits are only useful if you actually act on that data, and most of us don't. We wear it like this digital leash. There are cons, and these cons, of course, they are not marketed. These devices, like I said, they pulse low-level electromagnetic frequencies through our systems and our tissues 24/7. Our skin, our nervous system, and even our blood cells interact with that current. And over time, that exposure may disrupt circadian rhythms, alter heart rate variability, affect mitochondrial health, and who knows what else that is doing. And other people have reported worsened sleep, anxiety, reproductive function, or EMF sensitivity. Companies like Aura admit that their devices do emit Bluetooth intermittently. Apple Watches, well, they are far worse. It is constant wireless radiation right on your wrist's arterial flow. Here's where it gets really personal and honestly kind of creepy when you think about it. So let's talk about what your watch is actually collecting about you every single day. We're not just talking about steps and calories here, guys. We are talking about heart rate, sleep cycles, skin temperature, blood oxygen levels, menstrual data, and the way that you walk. This literally collects your gait patterns. And that is just the stuff that they put on the marketing materials that they actually tell you about. You want to know what else they're tracking? Well, your stress response through something called electrodermal activity. Micromotion accelerometers that detect even the tiniest fidgets about you that you're making throughout the day. Some of these things are even logging ambient noise exposure, so they know exactly how loud your environment is day and night. Apple's own health kit API, Fitbit's privacy policies, even the World Health Organization's biometric data reports, well, they all make it crystal clear. These devices are collecting way more data than most people have any clue about. Let's go off the record for a second. This is basically like signing up for a basic gym membership and then you find out, oh, they're also monitoring your conversations in the locker room, they're tracking your facial expressions during a workout, oh, they're even keeping a detailed log of every time you check yourself out in the mirror. All we signed up for was fitness tracking, right? We thought that we were getting a step counter that would maybe motivate us to take the stairs instead of the elevator. What we actually did was hand over 24/7 biometric diary of our entire lives, and most of us have absolutely no idea that we're even doing it. Now, back on the record, the second that this data leaves our body, it goes on a one-way trip that we have zero control over, from our watch to your phone straight to the company servers. And once it lands there, it's game over. We have almost no say in what actually happens next with this data. The FTC literally called out multiple wearable companies in 2023 for claiming this, that they anonymize your data while still leaving enough digital breadcrumbs to figure out exactly who you are. They're not even good at pretending to protect your privacy. And the WHO has already warned the biometric data is being fed into these predictive health models that can then literally influence your insurance rates before you even get sick. And it does get worse. Some of this incredibly personal information then gets packaged up and sold to hedge funds for market speculation. And yes, you heard me right. Wall Street might know more about your sleep cycle than your own spouse does. And here's where this gets completely twisted. Once all of that data is floating around out there, it's not just being stored or sold or analyzed by strangers, it's actually coming right back at you in the form of these so-called helpful alerts. Which brings us to the part that nobody warns us about when we buy one of these things. And this is what we call the health anxiety loop. So get this, the American Physiological Association has actually found that getting constant health notifications can actually raise your cortisol levels. You know what that is? That is somebody's stress hormone. And here's the twisted irony in all of this. The stress can actually make your health worse than it was before you started tracking it. So the Heart Rhythm Society has even warned us that certain alerts can trigger irregular heartbeats in some people. We're basically talking about technology-induced hypochondria here, where your watch isn't just passively tracking your health, it could potentially be making you feel sicker than you actually are. It's like having that one overly dramatic friend who texts you all the random times and like, OMG, call me right now, this is so urgent. You're panicking a little, and then you call them, try not to panic, and they're like, oh, I just wanted to tell you about this new smoothie recipe that I found on Instagram. Except now that friend, the dramatic friend, is literally strapped to your wrist 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you cannot turn them off or even leave them on red. If those constant anxiety-inducing alerts weren't bad enough, let's talk about how these companies actually sell you on the whole thing in the first place. Every single Apple Watch commercial shows you the exact same storyline, right? This watch literally saved my life. And there's always somebody jogging or doing yoga, their device starts beeping, and then boom, some hidden heart condition gets caught just in the nick of time. It's very dramatic, and yes, it is very compelling. And look, I'm not saying that this never happens, because it absolutely does, but here is what those heartwarming commercials conveniently leave out. The Cleveland Clinic found out that Apple Watch identified only 41% of atrial fibrillation instances when viewing the watch display alone. Studies have shown false positive rates can be significant. That means that you could be getting multiple alerts telling you that something is seriously wrong with your heart when there's absolutely nothing wrong. And this whole device saved my life thing makes for incredible marketing, but statistically speaking, the fear and stress that these false alarms can create might actually be doing more harm than the occasional real emergency that they catch. Here's something that honestly kind of insidious when you really think about it. Your watch isn't just tracking you anymore. To a degree, it is literally training you. Close your rings, keep your streak alive, hit today's step goal, or watch that sad little flame icon disappear in complete shame. This is dopamine manipulation 101, guys. This is the exact playbook that casinos and those addictive little mobile games are using to keep us hooked. You get this tiny little hit of, good job, you did it, every time you move around, and your brain starts craving that validation. And according to Stanford's Behavioral Design Lab, having high engagement with these apps doesn't automatically translate to better health outcomes. In other words, you can have absolutely perfect streaks for months. You can feel super accomplished about yourself, and you can still be one missed badge away from completely falling off the health wagon and giving up entirely. Let's go off the record for a second. Would I wear a smart device? Well, I did. I wore an Oura Ring for years, and it was sleek, it gave me the stats, it made me feel like I was on top of my health. But the more that I researched, especially recently, the more that I've prayed about it, the more that I started thinking about it and really just asking these hard questions about what it was I was inviting into and onto my body and my home, the less comfortable I became with this. Would I wear one now? Well, the answer is rarely, and only with these very specific boundaries. I would turn off Bluetooth during sleep or put it on airplane mode if the device allows. I wouldn't wear it all day. I would track data in Windows, and I would never wear it near reproductive organs or during pregnancy. And I wouldn't wear it during deep rest or even prayer, because these are times when our bodies and our spirits are most open, and I'm not inviting these constant EMF pulses into that space. The mainstream narrative here is this. It's that these devices will save lives and they'll revolutionize healthcare. And that's great, and it's true, but it is a sales pitch. The reality is that salvation, it doesn't come from a silicone chip, and in true health, well, that doesn't come from a perfect heart rate or a variability score. Here's where the biblical lens matters. In Psalms 139, it says this. It says that God knit you together in your mother's womb. So he knows your thoughts before you speak them. He knows where you sit, when you rise, and every heartbeat you'll ever have. And there is no device on this planet, no matter how smart, that will ever know you like the creator who made you knows you. And in 1 Corinthians 6, it says this: you are not your own, you were bought with a price, therefore glorify God with your body. So this means that our health decisions should be guided by stewardship, not just tech trends. Like, this is really something to think about. This data isn't necessarily neutral, and here's the thing that most people don't realize. Data is a currency. So every night of sleep, every step you take, every heartbeat, it's collected, it's stored, and in many cases, it is sold. You need to know where that data is going. You need to know who has access to it and how it's actually being used. And if we're called to be wise as serpents and innocent as doves in Matthew 10:16, well, we can't just accept convenience without discernment. And if we already struggle with hormone imbalance, anxiety, poor sleep, or energy crashes, my advice is this: think about what you're actually putting on you. It's okay to restore our intuition. We are not machines. We are a whole human being. We have body, soul, and a spirit. And sometimes the smartest biohack is actually disconnecting. And spiritually speaking, we don't need a random heart rate number to steal our peace. Like, that's not where our identity is coming from. And practically speaking, we need to learn how to set tech boundaries, and we need to decide what is worth tracking, what's worth sharing, and when to actually just completely unplug. And maybe, just maybe, instead of getting that dopamine hit from the little congratulations badge on your wrist, share your health victories face to face with somebody that you love. My bottom line is this: technology is an incredible tool, but it does make a terrible master. And if you keep it in its place, use it wisely, and stay anchored in truth, you will be far healthier than if you let a device dictate your worth. All right, friends, it is your turn to go on the record. Comment below and let's chat. Have you ever had a life-saving instance from a fitness tracker? Or maybe it's misread your body and maybe it's made you freak out over nothing. Maybe it gave you some silent reading that sent you down a 3-hour Google spiral at 12 a.m. I genuinely want to hear your honest experiences about this stuff. Remember this, your value as a person isn't measured in steps or closed rings or perfect streaks. You are much more than your metrics.